Please, nurse. I am not feeling well. Please attend to me.
Do you have money? If not, this hospital is not for your father. Goodbye.
The poor woman pleaded in tears, but little did the nurse know the person begging before her was her biological mother. A touching story you need to watch until the end. Grace cried out loudly as another wave of pain rushed through her body. Her husband David held her hand tightly, trying to encourage her while fear covered his face. "Be strong, Grace. Our baby is almost here." For many years, they had prayed for a child. They had struggled through poverty, sickness, and disappointment, but this day finally seemed to be the answer to their prayers. After several painful hours in the maternity ward, the cry of a newborn baby filled the room. Grace smiled weakly. "It is a girl," one nurse announced. Grace stretched out her shaking hands. "Please, let me hold her." The nurse gently placed the baby in her arms. Grace kissed her tiny forehead. "My daughter," she whispered. David wiped tears from his eyes. "God has blessed us." They could not stop smiling. The baby had tiny fingers, beautiful eyes, and dark curly hair. Grace looked at her daughter with love. She imagined watching her grow. She imagined taking her to school. She imagined teaching her how to cook. She imagined singing her to sleep. She imagined seeing her become a woman one day. But while Grace was dreaming of a beautiful future, evil people had already begun planning to separate mother and child forever. Unknown to Grace, one of the nurses working in the hospital had connections with people involved in illegal child trafficking. The nurse had secretly informed a wealthy businessman named Richard that a healthy newborn baby girl had been delivered. Richard and his wife had spent many years without having children. Instead of following legal adoption procedures, they allowed desperation to control them. Money changed hands secretly. The amount offered was enough to tempt dishonest workers. That same night, Grace became weak because of blood loss. Doctors gave her medicine to help her rest. David had gone outside briefly to buy food. The maternity ward became quiet. The nurse entered the room carefully. She looked around. Nobody was paying attention. Another nurse stood near the door watching. "Hurry," she whispered. The nurse lifted the baby gently. The child began crying softly. She quickly covered the baby's mouth with a blanket. Then another nurse administered medication that made the infant sleep. Within a few minutes, the baby became quiet. They wrapped her in another cloth. One nurse walked out carrying the baby as if she were taking her for routine examination. Nobody questioned her. Everything looked normal. A vehicle was already waiting outside. Richard sat inside nervously. His wife cried as she received the child. "Finally, we have a daughter." They drove away. Meanwhile, Grace slept peacefully, believing her child was nearby. Hours later, she woke up. Her body still hurt. She immediately turned toward the baby's bed. It was empty. She looked again. Nothing. Panic gripped her heart. She called loudly. "Nurse." A nurse entered. Grace's voice trembled. Where is my baby? The nurse pretended to be surprised. What baby? My daughter. The baby I gave birth to. The nurse looked confused. We do not know. Grace sat upright despite her pain. What do you mean you do not know? She was here. I held her. I fed her. Where is my child? More nurses arrived. Doctors came. Security guards appeared. People started searching. Everyone pretended to be shocked. But deep inside, they already knew the truth. Grace screamed until her throat became sore. David returned carrying food. He found his wife crying uncontrollably. What happened? They stole our daughter. David dropped everything. What? He ran through the hospital corridors. He questioned nurses. He questioned guards. Nobody admitted anything. Police officers were called. Statements were taken. Grace explained everything. But another terrible discovery was made. Her hospital card had disappeared. The card that contained delivery details was missing. Grace searched everywhere. Under the bed, inside her bag, near the window, nothing. It had been stolen. One officer looked at her. Do you have evidence? Grace shook her head. They took my card. Do you have pictures? No. Witnesses? I was unconscious. The officer sighed. It will be difficult. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Grace visited police stations repeatedly. She begged for investigations, but people kept asking the same question. Where is the evidence? Without evidence, the case weakened. Some people began accusing Grace. Perhaps she sold her own child. Others laughed. Maybe she is making up stories. Grace cried endlessly. She knew what she had experienced. She knew she had held her daughter. She knew somebody had stolen her. But nobody listened. Eventually, the case was closed. No arrests were made. No suspects were identified. Grace returned home broken-hearted. She felt as though part of her soul had been removed. At night, she would wake up crying. Sometimes she imagined hearing a baby crying outside. She would run to the door, only to find darkness. David tried comforting her. God sees everything. One day the truth will come out. But Grace had lost hope. Poverty soon made life even harder. David worked as a casual laborer. Some days he earned money. Other days he returned home empty-handed. Their small mud house leaked during rainy seasons. Cold winds entered through cracks in the walls. Sometimes they had no food. Grace would walk long distances carrying a basin. She stood beside roads asking for help. Some people ignored her. Some insulted her. Others mocked her. You are strong enough to walk. Why are you begging? Grace tried finding employment. She went to restaurants. She applied as a cleaner. She asked for domestic work. But employers refused. You have children. You will miss work. Your baby will disturb us. Grace returned home disappointed. Years passed. God blessed them with another child. a little boy named Brian. Grace loved him dearly, but every time she looked at him, she remembered her missing daughter. She wondered, is she alive? Does she know I exist? Does she ever think about her mother? Life remained difficult. Sometimes Grace left home with only hope. She searched for milk. She searched for food. She searched for opportunities. If God provided, they ate. If He did not, they slept hungry. Yet, she never stopped praying. Meanwhile, the stolen child was growing in luxury. Richard raised her as his own daughter. He named her Diana. She attended expensive schools. She wore beautiful clothes. She had her own room. She had books. She had toys. She had servants. People admired her. Richard loved her genuinely, but guilt haunted him. Every birthday reminded him that the child belonged to another woman. Whenever Diana asked questions about her mother, Richard avoided answering. Your mother works abroad. She loves you. She sends greetings. Diana believed him. She grew into a beautiful young woman. Intelligent, kind, determined. She wanted to help sick people. Eventually, she joined medical school. She studied hard. Years later, she graduated. She became a nurse. Fate played a cruel game. She was employed in the same hospital where she had been stolen as a newborn. Grace also continued visiting that hospital. Years of suffering had damaged her health. She suffered from weakness. Sometimes she fainted. Sometimes she experienced severe pain. Every visit brought back painful memories. But something unusual kept happening. Grace often saw a young nurse. The girl resembled her greatly. The same eyes, the same smile, the same cheeks. Even the way she laughed looked familiar. Grace could not explain it. She stared many times. Could she be my daughter? No, impossible. She dismissed the thought. Yet every visit strengthened her suspicion. She prayed silently. Lord, if she is my daughter, reveal it. Years continued passing. Then one day, destiny finally opened the door to the truth. Richard and Diana attended a burial ceremony. After the funeral, they began traveling back home. Along the roadside stood an elderly woman carrying a sick child. She looked weak, hungry, exhausted. Her clothes were old. Her face looked tired. She stretched out her hands. Please help us. We have nothing. My child is sick. Diana looked closely. Suddenly she recognized her. You are the woman who visits our hospital often. Grace smiled faintly. Yes, I am. She raised her eyes. The two women stared at one another. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Grace's heart beat rapidly. She saw herself in the young woman. Diana also felt uncomfortable. Something inside her connected deeply with Grace. She turned toward Richard. Father, where exactly is my mother? Richard became nervous. She is abroad. Grace listened carefully. Her memories returned. The stolen baby, the hospital, the lost card, the unanswered questions. Tears filled her eyes. She gathered courage. My daughter, I believe you might be my child. Diana immediately interrupted. No, please stop. You cannot be my mother. My father raised me. My mother is abroad. Grace lowered her head. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But inside her heart, she knew one thing. Destiny had finally reunited them, and the truth was about to change everyone's lives forever. Grace could not sleep after meeting Diana. All night she remembered her face. The resemblance was too strong. Her heart kept whispering, "That is my daughter." She prayed, "If she truly belongs to me, Lord, please reveal the truth." The next morning, Grace returned to the hospital. She wanted answers. She waited for Diana patiently. When Diana finally appeared, Grace approached slowly. "My child." Diana sighed. "You again?" Grace nodded. "I only want to talk." Diana folded her arms. "What do you want?" Grace swallowed painfully. "I lost my daughter in this hospital many years ago. She was stolen." Diana looked uncomfortable. "That is unfortunate, but it has nothing to do with me." Grace continued speaking. "My hospital card disappeared. I reported. Nobody believed me. They asked for evidence. I had none. They ignored me." Tears filled her eyes. Diana remained silent. Before she could respond, Grace suddenly felt dizzy. Her body shook. She leaned against a wall. "I am not feeling well. Please help me." Diana checked hospital records. "Do you have money?" Grace shook her head. "I came without any. I am poor. I have nothing."
I am not feeling well. Please attend to me.
"This is not a public hospital. We cannot treat patients without payment." Grace pleaded. "I might die. My child. Please help me." Diana spoke firmly. "I am sorry. Hospital rules are hospital rules. You need money first." Grace looked at her. Tears flowed. She walked away slowly. People watching felt pity. Some whispered, "Why refuse treatment?" Others offered coins. Grace left the hospital crying. Diana watched her disappear, but her heart was troubled. Something about Grace disturbed her deeply. That night, she questioned Richard. "Father, tell me honestly, who is my mother?" Richard became anxious. "Why are you asking again?" "Because I deserve answers. Why do I resemble that woman? Why do I feel connected to her?" Richard avoided eye contact. "Your mother lives abroad. That is all." Diana shook her head. "No, you are hiding something." Richard became silent. Grace, however, decided she would no longer remain quiet. She reported the matter officially. Authorities summoned Richard. Grace stood courageously. She spoke with determination. "If he is innocent, let him show us my daughter's mother." People looked at Richard. "Where is she? Bring her." Richard could not answer. Days passed. Pressure increased. Eventually, authorities ordered DNA testing. Samples were collected. Everyone waited anxiously. Grace prayed day and night. David encouraged her. "After all these years, God is finally answering." Several days later, Results arrived. Silence filled the room. An officer opened the envelope. Everyone watched. He cleared his throat. The DNA confirms that Grace is Diana's biological mother. Diana froze. Her knees became weak. Tears filled her eyes. She stared at Grace, then at Richard. Her entire world shattered. No, no, this cannot be true. Richard suddenly knelt down. He cried bitterly. I am guilty. I bought you. I wanted a child. I was desperate. My wife and I made a terrible decision. I loved you, but I destroyed another woman's life. Grace cried loudly. Years of pain burst out at once. She remembered the delivery room. She remembered waking up alone. She remembered begging for justice. She remembered standing beside roads asking for help. She remembered nights of hunger. She remembered carrying Brian while mourning a daughter she never held again. Diana fell to her knees. She crawled toward Grace. Mother, forgive me. I denied you treatment. I insulted you. I pushed you away. I called you a stranger. Grace lifted her gently. My daughter, you did not know. You were stolen. You were also a victim. Diana hugged her tightly. Both women cried. People around them wiped tears. Grace narrated her painful story. I held you. I kissed you. They took you. They stole my hospital card. They silenced me. I searched everywhere. I prayed every day. I begged for food. I cried every night. I waited for you. I asked God to let me see you once before I died. Diana cried harder. I am sorry. I judged you because you were poor. I forgot that poverty does not mean someone is worthless. Grace smiled through tears. God returned you to me. That is enough. Richard remained kneeling. Please forgive me. I know I caused pain. I know I destroyed lives. Grace looked at him. You stole years from me. You stole my motherhood. But revenge cannot heal my wounds. I leave judgment to God. Diana immediately decided to care for Grace. She bought medicine. She improved their home. She provided food. She paid Brian's school fees. She visited every day. This story reminds us never to judge people because they are poor, old, or asking for help. Some carry wounds so deep that hearing their stories can bring tears to our eyes. Grace spent years crying for a stolen child, only to be rejected by the very daughter she had searched for all her life. Let this story teach us to show kindness, compassion, and respect to everyone we meet, because we never know the battles they are fighting inside. Child trafficking destroys families, and pride can blind us from the truth. Take a moment, lower your head, and think about this story. What would you do in Grace's place? If this story touched your heart, please share it with others so its lesson can inspire more people to choose love, mercy, and humanity. Thanks for watching.